Okay, Joe Marino and James Norrie. Why don't you do the introductions here, Joe? Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on here today. We're talking about the master plan, right?
Yeah, we are, and I brought a friend with me. He's the chair of the master plan committee that we developed from the Common Council, and I'll let him speak for himself. But he's Dr. James Norrie. He's the dean of the business college at Utica College. He's become a dear friend of mine from Toronto. But James, I'll let you say who you are and what you're doing.
Well, we won't talk too much about Toronto because I don't think there's many comparisons between Toronto and Utica. But anyway,
Toronto's awesome.
It's a great city. Love it, and really glad to be here, though.
And you know, interesting. I think they're doing with the the big fair they do all summer long in Toronto. I think that's what the governor's plan is for the state fair here.
I think you're probably right.
Anyway, let's talk about Utica.
Nice to meet you. Great to be here. One of the things that's really great about being at Utica College is that you have an opportunity to serve the community. And so my president tapped me on the shoulder one time and he said, "Hey, there's this guy you got to meet. His name's Joe Marino, and he wants to talk to you about giving the city a hand with the master planning committee, and the rest is history, as they say." And so Joe and I have become good friends, mostly because as the rest of the world attacks most of what we try and do strategically for the city, we hang together and drink. So it's a good thing.
That helps.
That helps a lot.
That builds creativity right there.
Yeah, I think wine makes the world go round.
A lot more in common in Utica and Toronto than you think.
That's true.
A lot of
because Canadians don't drink. Right? I didn't drink till I came down here.
No, sure.
That's all the politicians.
So what is the master plan? I mean, we've talked about it. There was a master plan, and this is a redevelopment of the master plan. Is that what's happening?
Well, I mean, what it is, we've always said it's a living, breathing document, and we want to make sure that we're, doing our best to make sure that we just look at it, take it off a shelf, kind of cajole it. And Brian Thomas does a terrific job with the city, but the Common Council wants to make sure that the public has some input.
Yeah.
So what we did on the council's end was we devised a citizen group of stakeholders and community members to just say where we are, where we're going, and where we were with this master plan. It doesn't have anything to do with one particular piece of development or another, or one particular neighborhood over another.
Yeah.
It's just, how are we following it? Can we follow it better? Can we as a city be a cohesive group together and get the word out better about this thing? So it's an overall encompassing project that, people like James and Bob Hines, architect for the area, is doing the Bank of Utica building. J.K. Hage is involved. A lot of people from the old master plan had their hand in this current, quote unquote update. So we're going to have another community meeting. They've held one 2 Saturdays ago, and they're going to hold another on April 9th at 8:30. James and the college has been terrific enough to invite the public in.
We're hosting on a neutral territory.
Okay, that's always important. And, we talked earlier in the last hour. There's talk about a lot of people have a different opinion of what Utica should be and what should be invested. We're talking about the hospital downtown. That's got to be part of it, right?
Absolutely. So let's talk about what's happened since 2011 in Utica. Because, I arrived in this town and I was absolutely amazed. Here's this charming little diamond in the rough, Utica, the little college that I call our college, but it's representative of the whole place. And what's so really intriguing for me, Bill, is I arrive as an outsider with a little optimism and a little hope and some thought, hey, this is a really cool place that I'm coming down to.
Yeah, college campuses, by the way, are beautiful.
They are. And then I met the citizens. And it was pessimism, and it was deep, and it was dark, and it's all about what was, and we're rooted in the past, and it's not the way it was. You should have been here 10 years ago.
Right,
I think what happens when you get into a scenario like that, let's look at what happened up to 2011. You have a master plan, somebody strikes some ideas, and it's great. You're 5 years later. Well, who knew? The business school is moving downtown. We're engaged in downtown revitalization. You got the hospital coming up. You got plans around the Odd. So a lot of things have happened since 2011. So it was a really good charge from Common Council for us just to consider not any individual project. So we're not here to comment on hospital, yes or no, and Odd redevelopment or anything else. That's not our job. Our job really is to say, when that plan was developed in 2011, it had certain themes, underlying themes and principles. Do those still apply? And asking the citizens things like, well, what do we think about some of these developments? Do we need to sort of tune up, retool, reconsider any of those? What do we need to do? And I want to really stress for folks that this is a future forward proposition for me. So we are where we are. And now the question is, where do we want to go? Where do we want to be when we grow up? It's sort of like being a teenager. We're at that awkward, gangly stage. And I think we got to get out of that and figure out what we want to be when we grow up. And one of the things that I really want listeners to understand is, sure, I want to hear all about what was in the past. And I love your memories of going to Woolworths and sitting on the stools and having a burger. That's terrific, okay? That's never coming back.
Right.
So let's realistically say, what will come back
Right.
and what won't. And then let's move forward together as a community and figure out what we're going to do. And there's a big difference between being strategic and being opportunistic. And one of the things that we're going to stress in our report is the need for everybody, county level, local level, council, the mayor, everybody.
Strategic.
Just be a little strategic.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
because somebody arrives at your doorstep selling you something, famous Nancy Reagan, how about just say no?
Mm-hmm.
There comes a point at which.
And preparing for what could happen, there's some that believe that the Nano is never going to turn into thousands and thousands of jobs. So what does this community look like if that doesn't happen?
You want to fight, Bill? All right, let me talk to you about Nano.
I'm saying.
Hold on a second. So let me just talk about Nano.
I do not want to, for the record.
I'm just
do
teasing.
not want to fight.
Teasing. What amazes me is that the naysayers around here, they need to grasp a couple of important things. So first of all, economic development happens in cycles that are measured in years, not months, not days, not weeks, months, years and years. Take Nano. We can point to other places where the arrival of a core underlying industry of the future like Nano has a clear and immediate and direct impact. Jobs, the satellite industries go around it, educational institutions, research. I could go on and on and on. So It isn't really about Nano. It's about a cluster built around Nano. And not the cluster the way some people are accusing it of being, okay? But a real cluster of industry and economic development potential. If you look at what's going to happen at that Marcy site, you look at the companies who are involved, let's just assume that it turns into some 2,000 core jobs roughly there, okay? The dollars, the economists at my school, okay? So we run a business school. We worry about money, okay? Money makes this world go round. Economic development works this way. Those 2,000 jobs translate to dollars upon dollars upon dollars upon dollars. But it is the satellite industries around Nano that actually make the biggest difference. And the proof of that is right here in our hometown in a wee little place just to the north of us called Rome. I don't know if everybody's noticed what's happened at the base, but the impact of the renovation of that and the repositioning of that and all of the things that go around that is exactly what Nano brings to Marcy. So it's an important point for people to remember. It's real.
Not easy because we like, especially in this day and age, we are really, we want it now.
We sure do.
And if it
Instant
doesn't come now,
gratification.
what are we doing? There's failure.
Right.
And how do we combat that?
I don't know because, and
Bit of a leap of
and
faith there that we got to have.
It'll be another time for Joe and I to drink shortly, because our politicians,
No, but that is true, though, because you do want, look, you elect people in certain positions and you try to have faith in them for their election cycle. The problem is that politicians even can't see past the tips of their election cycle. So can you invest in your future knowing that it's going to be beyond a 2-year term or a 4-year term? And those things are really hard to do. I think we've seen a lot of it happening now. And I think that the city of Utica and Rome and our region has been so accustomed to being slapped back with some of those things and some of the things that haven't happened that, that's the cycle that we have to break. I think that we're on our way to breaking it. I can't blame necessarily the people for saying, oh, it's never going to happen because it hasn't, and we've promised in the past. This one, though, is very tough to say that it's not when you have billions of dollars going into our region. I mean, it's unprecedented, the amount of money that people are going to spend. And I could just say no one's going to spend that kind of money and not have any results come forward. So, everything that we have going on is very, very, exciting. It's encouraging. The things that James and that group are doing are encouraging. I couldn't thank them enough. I mean, again, these are volunteers taking their time at no other expense to anything but their love and passion for the city to see that we can all do this as a community. It's really great. But, it is difficult to see past the tips of our faces.
Sure.
So that faith is...
how do people participate?
Yeah, well, Sunday or Saturday morning at 8:30, we'll have a little coffee.
If you come Sunday, there'll be nobody there.
Nobody there.
Yeah. Saturday.
James
Saturday.
He sleeps and breathes at college.
So coffee and donuts at 8:30.
Got it.
We kick off the session at 9 o'clock. It lasts probably 2.5, 3 hours solidly. It is in the Carbone Auditorium, which is easy to read, easy to find. Right off Burstone Road, enter Park. There'll be a sign there for you.
This is where people can give input.
And so what we're really looking for is my committee members, and I, like Joe, want to thank them. They have been tirelessly dedicated to this. It's taken us longer than any of us had hoped to get to this point because there's been a lot of community interest. So we really want the community to come out, but we want the community to come out realizing we're not the planning department, we're not the city. We're citizens just like you. We're interested in hearing what you have to say.
No arguing over where the hospital should go or
correct.
any of that stuff.
They can argue about that, but they're going to have to do it in another room because that's really not what we're here. We're really here to hear about our hopes for the future and our aspirations, and we've got way more to think about than just development. Parks, rec, social services, infrastructure. I mean, we got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
It's exciting, Bill. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you for having us today, Bill.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for waiting around. I appreciate it. 824, Little Falls, with a bit of a situation where there were threats made. School still went on. It is still up in limbo right now. We're going to talk to the superintendent at Little Falls coming up next on WIBX.